They won 3-0 out there and then scored 4 more back at Old Trafford. And I think, you think of the dramatic win against Lyon, one of the most fantastic nights at Old Trafford, not necessarily because of the level of the competition they were or the quality of the football, but just the drama of being 4-2 down in extra time and then turning it around was just incredible. So this idea that they've struggled so much in the Premier League at Old Trafford, well, in the Europa League, they've had some fantastic moments there. So, we can see here as well, lots of goals. Manchester United, 2024-25, 35 points, most goals in a Europa League campaign, 35 goals it is. And Porto, we can see here with 37. So, very impressive from Man United. They've been free-flowing, which you cannot say about some of their attacking performances in the Premier League so far this year.
And this raises the question, are they more suited to playing in Europe, given the system Amorim plays, and maybe the pace of how the game is played?
Yeah, I think this is something that Amorim's noted, is that maybe the Europa League's not quite as intense or physical as the Premier League might be, and maybe that suits his players slightly better, maybe suits the formation. Obviously, this is a system of play that Amorim honed at Sporting and did so well out in Portugal with. So it's a system that's worked so well on the continent, and that's what Man United have tried to translate and bring over to the Premier League. And it's clearly in the Premier League, there's teething issues. There's going to be a need for new players to come in who are perhaps better suited to play in that system in the Premier League and the intensity of the Premier League. What I would say, though, is that for how well it's worked in the Europa League, they now meet a Premier League team in the final.
Well, yeah, that's the snack.
It's a Premier League team that's beaten them 3 times, and a Premier League team that's one of the most intense and physical sides in the Premier League in terms of, you think of Tottenham pressing high and running back and working really hard for Ange Postecoglou. So, yes, it suited them pretty well to get to this point, but they're going to have to find something that they can't usually find in the Premier League tonight.
Yeah, it's a European final, but it's a Premier League game.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
yeah.
OK, we showed you that stat of United's goal-scoring prowess in Europe this season. And even Rasmus Højlund loves this competition, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right. He's got 6 goals across this competition so far, and we can see here, his name here, among the top scorers in the Europa League so far this season. Bruno Fernandes leading the way here with Ho from Bodo Glimt and El Kabi from Galatasaray, I believe he is. Olympiacos. Højlund, he got a couple of goals in back-to-back games in the league phase, actually, for United, turning results their way at that point and getting them into a really good position in the league phase to automatically qualify for the knockouts. Well, I would say, I think, if you look at his recent performances generally for United, they're not particularly encouraging going into this game. I mean, his performance against Chelsea, he really struggled to have an impact at Stamford Bridge at the weekend, didn't he? And it's 3 goals in 33 matches for Man United in his last 33 matches. So it's not the form you want. And I think even seeing Harry Maguire, almost jokingly, but having to answer questions about whether he should be playing up front tonight is maybe a little bit telling about the impact that Højlund's having. And when Maguire's been thrust up there late on, like against Lyon, he seems to cause real problems in the penalty box. But Højlund will be hoping maybe to silence some of those critics on the big stage here.
Yeah. Bruno Fernandes, of course, we saw they are top of that list. Does it feel like he is the player that will step up and grab this game by the scruff of the neck?
Yeah, I mean, he is the main man, the talisman for Man United, and he wears the captain's armband, but he's such a leader for them in terms of their attacking performances in particular. He's top of the chances created stats for them, but we can look also at his formidable record in the Europa League across his career, and this is the knockout stages only, but 19 goals, second in that ranking, 13 assists, first in that ranking, and goal involvements put together, he's top of that pile as well. And look at his chances created and particularly in open play as well, but we know he can deliver from set-piece situations. So if they're going to pick away through this Tottenham defence, you think that he'll probably be involved. And we mentioned earlier the final they had against Villarreal a couple of years ago. He was captain that night and it went to penalties and United obviously edged out in the end. He didn't create a chance across the whole 120 minutes in that match. So that was a moment where all this brilliant Europa League form he's shown in the past deserted him, and I'm sure he might be thinking of that match going into this one tonight, thinking I've got a point to prove here, the big European stage, and remind everyone what I can do, because more often than not, he is the decisive man for Man United.
Yeah. Ruben Amorim insists that winning the Europa League won't change anything for United. Could getting into the Champions League, though, make a huge difference?
Absolutely. Look, we've heard stories all year, haven't we, about redundancies at Man United, about the cost-cutting by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the talk and plans of this new stadium they want to build, and finances are absolutely crucial for Man United going forward. And we're talking about potentially £100 million for if they win this match tonight and getting into the Champions League, the revenue they'd have of extra games at Old Trafford or Champions League games at Old Trafford on top of that as well. So it's a huge financial windfall for whoever wins this game tonight. But I think also for Man United going forward, it's about that lifting up the club and the positivity around Amorim, going into that pre-season, feeling like winners, feeling like this system can win big matches and this plan can win big matches. Obviously it gives them the financial might to bring in some new players as well, but I think it's almost that psychological edge that it gives them as well. The counterpoint, of course, is that this Man United team who've struggled so badly in the Premier League this season will suddenly have to play very difficult Champions League games in between. And I think we've seen Aston Villa this year struggle to back up their good performances in the Champions League in their next Premier League games, for instance. So it puts even more pressure, I think, on the Premier League performances. But I think it feels almost crucial. We heard Andy Mitten talking earlier, the Man United supporter and fanzine writer, about that 100 million. What a huge boost that would be for the club and almost essential for them.
OK, well, Peter's back with us as we continue to look ahead to what promises to be a brilliant final in Bilbao. Amazingly, Tottenham go into the game with a great recent record against their opponents, don't they?
Certainly. Something for the Tottenham fans out in Bilbao to cling on to as they head towards the stadium this evening, that Tottenham have beaten Man United 3 times this season already. We can start here in September in the Premier League, away 3-0 at Old Trafford. You remember that was the game where Bruno Fernandes got sent off, a red card that was later rescinded, and I think Erik ten Hag was keen to sort of dismiss that result at the time, but also remember Mickey van der Ven bursting through the pitch up there. Brilliant driving run from him in that game. And then these 2 games at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I was there for these. The EFL Cup game, a wild 4-3 game, loads of mistakes. Fraser Forster and Buendia in the Man United goal as well, making errors in that match. But then Vicario and Onana were back in, and that was the story of the goalkeepers for this 1-0 Premier League result in February, where Onana parried the ball out for Maddison to score Tottenham's opener. And this is quite early on in the game, and in fact Tottenham have scored inside 15 minutes in all 3 of these matches so far this season. So that's a word of warning for Man United. They've got to be sharp from the start tonight. But Vicario at the other end was absolutely excellent for Tottenham that night, and you feel like Tottenham will probably need a good performance from him as well this evening in Bilbao if they are to get over the line and add a 4th win against Man United this season, something they've never done before. Yeah,
no Maddison, of course, for this one. Yeah. And Spurs may have got the better of United over recent fixtures, but what's their records like in finals?
Not great. Of course, we know it's 17 years since they last lifted a trophy, don't we, in the 2008 Carabao Cup, or Carling Cup, I think, as it was then. But as we can see, since then, 4 finals, 4 defeats, 3 managers across these games as well. Harry Redknapp in charge of this one, the one that they lost the year after that previous victory for them. And Mauricio Pochettino, so many good league finishes, weren't there, but just not able to get over the line in these cup finals, in the EFL Cup against Chelsea, the 2-0 there. A couple of deflected goals, Rob, from Chelsea that day, if I remember correctly.
One was a screamer.
And of course, the Champions League final against Liverpool in 2019. 24 seconds, I think it was, when Sissoko handled the ball and gave away that penalty, deflated Tottenham for much of the rest of that game, and Liverpool going on to win 2-0. And then, of course, losing to Man City 1-0 as well. That was when Mourinho was sacked in the lead-up to the final in the week ahead, and Ryan Mason took charge, and Laporte eventually headed in late on for Man City. But could it have been different for Tottenham if Mourinho had stuck around, this specialist in delivering silverware for his clubs? We'll never know, but Tottenham out to end this disappointing streak tonight.
We'll never know until the autobiography. Then we'll
what
know.
happened?
What about Manchester United in comparison?
Well, I think that's been a story for Man United. They have been able to keep delivering silverware even during these tough times, and that's certainly the story of Erik ten Hag's reign. We can see the Carabao Cup win against Newcastle, and then picking up that FA Cup win against Man City at the end of last season, really to paper over the cracks of a disappointing season for himself last year. And afterwards, he spoke about the resilience of his players and their ability to deliver in that big cup final against their rivals, having lost the previous year in the FA Cup final to them. Of course, Europa League, relatively recent experience for them in the Europa League final as well, losing to Villarreal. It was an absolutely incredible game that went to penalties. And if you remember, Rob, it ended up 11-10 to Villarreal. David De Gea went through all the players, right down to the goalkeepers having to take penalties, and David De Gea missing his spot kick, and it was very cruel on De Gea, cruel on United, and Villarreal took the spoils that time. But Bruno Fernandes, captain that day, obviously looking to make amends for that as well with his players this time.
That result got them into the Europa League.
It did indeed, yeah.
So there we go. Does it feel like United then have the big game experience over this Spurs team?
Well, I think when we see these finals and how they have got over the line, I mentioned Ten Hag saying the way that this team or group of players could deliver when it really mattered, when they got onto the big stage, I think that does play into their favour. I think you look at results like beating Man City away or drawing at Liverpool and Arsenal this season. We can see here the only time that these two teams have met in a major final, Man United got the edge that day on penalties as well. This was in 2009, wasn't it, in the Carling Cup there, the League Cup. And Ben Foster, we can see getting congratulated by his Man United teammates after O'Hara's penalty was saved and David Bentley missed the target with his. But Ben Foster was man of the match that day, made a string of good saves. He'd been out for pretty much 12 months with injury, and I've already mentioned how these goalkeepers could have an influence tonight. I think that's a good example that, you need your goalkeeper to be on top form if you want to get your hands on the silverware in these big finals.
So just missing the trophy. Some season we've been outstanding. We've been in the Champions League. We've been in the finishing in the second, but still we were missing something. But this year we can change that. So as a tomorrow goes, I hope we can change that. We'll be just telling them that we need to be together and we need to stay calm and just do our thing, right things, and the game will be in our hands.
There we go. Pete, still with us. Let's turn our attention to Spurs. Is the feeling that winning a trophy, perhaps for Tottenham, considering the history, in fact bigger than getting into the Champions League?
Perhaps, because as Son said there, they've been in the Champions League. They've got to a Champions League final. They've had those seasons where back-to-back years they've been at the top table in terms of Europe's top competition and had the revenues and built this huge stadium, and yet they still haven't had that feeling of lifting silverware for 17 years now. And earlier in the show we looked at the 4 finals they've had since then and lost them all. The infamous stories about them getting engraved watches just for reaching the Champions League final. Well, this is their chance to show that, on the big stage they can go and deliver, get over the line and really perform when it counts and finally give those fans something to cheer. And yes, of course, the Champions League is going to be hugely significant for them next season if they do win it, like it would be for Man United in terms of the revenues and potentially what happens with the manager and the whole project going forwards. But right now, the opportunity to lift that famous trophy, like they did back in 1984, is a really precious one and a really special opportunity for these players, and they need to go and seize it.
Yeah. What kind of form are Spurs in, though, coming into this game? It's not good reading, is it?
Not great. There's a lot of red on this screen, isn't there? It's been very poor and a big drop-off, really, from Spurs, where they've almost focused their efforts entirely on the Europa League games against Bodo Glimt and Frankfurt before that. And these last couple of games, I was there for the Crystal Palace game, which came hot on the heels, really, of that second leg away in Bodo Glimt. And there were lots of changes to the team, as there were for the Villa game. And really, it's no secret, I think, that Ange Postecoglou wrapping his key players up in cotton wool. And these games haven't been the priority, if I can say it, for them over these last few weeks. I think the question is, can you then go from these sort of performances and these defeats to then turning it on when it matters in the Europa League, going into this final with no real rhythm or consistency to your performances or your team selections? Because Ruben Amorim made a point after the Chelsea game where he fielded a pretty strong team there and they equipped themselves pretty well, of saying, I couldn't just have these players sitting around for 10 days doing a little bit of training. I wanted them to have the intensity of a match and the connections that you get within that match and that feeling you get within the match. Well, Vicario, Romero, Van der Ven, they've not kicked a ball in anger since the Bodo Glimt game 13 games ago. So it's a completely different approach Ange Postecoglou's taken. Perhaps understandable with the amount of injuries that they've suffered this year. But we'll find out tonight, won't we, whether keeping those players going and the rhythm pays off for Man United or whether Ange Postecoglou's approach delivers for them.
Yeah, we mentioned Bergvall, we mentioned Maddison, we've got to add Kulusevski to that list as well. They've got a big hole to fill in that number 10 role, haven't they?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I talked about them repping players up in Cotton Wall. Kulusevski was injured in that Crystal Palace game when he was one of just 3 players who started the next game after the Bodo glimpse. So, I mean, Postecoglou must have been stood on the sidelines thinking, this is why I've made so many changes, because I can't afford to keep losing these players. But as you say, they're 3 potentially first-choice players. I mean, these 2 players here rank in their top 3 for chances created this season. And when you look at who's left, yes, they're still decent players, good players, but not with the creative attributes of Maddison and Kulusevski at all. Bentancur, Bissouma and Sarr at the end there, and young Archie Gray, who's had to play in so many different positions for Tottenham this season. I think it tells us a little story about how Tottenham might address this game and actually how they've played recently, and that Ange ball, I think, is definitely parked right now. This idea of fantastic free-flowing football is not there right now for Spurs. They've looked much more direct recently. They've defended a lot deeper than they have done under Ange Postecoglou. And I think the plan might be almost to bypass this midfield as they attack, get the ball quickly to Solanke and use the pace of Johnson and Son on the wings, running hard past the Man United team, trying to get those players turned. And it's a big departure, I think, from the idea Ange Postecoglou originally had when he came to the club. But needs must, and I think as we get closer and closer to the chance to win this trophy, it was just about finding a way to win with all these issues and injury issues and selection issues at his door.
Yeah. Do you get the feeling whichever way this final goes, Spurs have continued to be a project next season, and like United, a win maybe not necessarily solve?
Yeah, it definitely won't solve anything. Both these teams are on course for their worst ever Premier League seasons, pretty much assured of their worst ever Premier League seasons. So it's a long way back. I know Ruben Amorim was saying, well, Leicester were in a relegation battle and went and won the title, and Nottingham Forest were in a relegation battle and are competing for Champions League. Yeah, there are examples of teams turning it around like that, but if you look at the top teams this year, you expect Liverpool to get even stronger than they were. You'd expect all those other teams, Man City, Arsenal expect to be up there again, don't they? Man City are going to invest. Chelsea will want to be better. All those teams on the fringes, Newcastle as well, will be wanting to push on. And so it's not that you're just trying to improve yourself, you're trying to make a huge leap yourself and also then go above teams that are already in a really good position themselves and making good money from European competitions that they're in. So, yeah, I think the focus for both teams, get their hands on the silverware and then hopefully they can use the income and revenue to build. But I don't think they're suddenly going to be competing for the Premier League next season.
OK, let's have a look. You've had a kind of look in your crystal ball, see how the teams might line up. Tottenham, you're talking about maybe changing things. Right, tell us.
Let's have a look at these lineups. So we'll start with Tottenham because I think this is a little bit more of the straightforward one. We've obviously seen the players they're missing. The midfield there I've spoken about. The issue could be Wilson Odobert, they've experimented with him as a number 10. Perhaps that's something they could look at. But I think that back line picks itself, goalkeeper picks itself. I think the front line picks itself really as well. Son just coming back to fitness just in time. And I think we've seen against Villa and Palace some driving runs from him that suggest that he's got the fitness that he will need. But if we go to Man United, this is where the bigger questions are because we don't know. Lenny Euro was back training yesterday, for instance. Could he come straight back into the back line? Diogo Dalot was training again. Could he come in? Would Mazraoui go to right centre-back? If that was the case, Amad Diallo, he could play as a right wing-back if United want to be even more aggressive and attacking. So lots of options. I've got Mason Mount there. He played obviously against Chelsea, didn't he? He's just come back to form at the time, scored some important goals from them recently. Maybe Ugarte goes into midfield, Fernandes into the front line. Lots of issues. It'll be tricky, I think, for Ange Postecoglou to predict what Ruben Amorim's going to do.
OK, that's...
We're going to do it again, Ruben Amorim. Ruben again. Back for the strengthening. To turn the reds around. Ruben Amorim.
Good evening and welcome to the Manchester United Matchday -1 UEFA Europa League 2025 final press conference. We're joined by players Bruno Fernandes and Harry Maguire, as well as coach Ruben Amorim. Questions, please, in either English, Spanish or Basque, and answers will be given in one of the same languages. Over to you.
Thanks. Simon.
Hi, Ruben. Just wondering how the team's looking. We saw Euro training earlier and Dalot and Xerxes. I don't think we were expecting him to be involved when you said he was out for the rest of the season. So what's the situation there?
Me neither. So they recover quite well. They push. Of course, we respect the feeling of the player, but we push a little bit because they wanted to be part of the team, and that is a very, very good sign. And it's very good for us. Of course, they are limited in the minutes for the game, but they can help us to win the game. The league is out.
Simon.
Hi, Ruben. This has been such a strange kind of season with victories in Europe and then disappointing defeats and some harsh comments. What are your views on this game and whether it would mask what's happened over the last few months or whether it would give you a new future?
A new future for me, I think, is not the case, but it's going to help us to finish the season. People will look at our team in a different way because winning a European title is really important. But again, nothing is going to change our season. Players know, everybody knows, the staff knows, the fans knows. But winning a European title can help us to have that feeling that can help us to build the future.
Dave.
You've spoken very honestly about this season, the challenges on and off the pitch, with the cutbacks at the club and the redundancies. I know you're not thinking this way, but if you were to lose tomorrow, that may lead to more kind of issues like that. So in that sense, are you playing for just more than yourselves tomorrow night? Are you playing for the futures of staff and a much bigger cause?
Again, I think is not the case. We are doing things that we need to do it. But for example, I came from the club that in order to survive and to maintain players, you need to be in Champions League. This is not the case. Our club can have revenues without Champions League. It's a big club. It's a massive club with a lot of fans around the world. It's a big brand. So we just need to be focused and do the things in the right way. So I don't see like that, but I'm always playing for more than myself. I'm coaching for my players, for my staff, and especially for our fans.
Rob.
Bruno, if that's okay. I know there's lots of talk around this game, getting into the Champions League, the revenues, all that kind of stuff, and all the players and the manager have been very cautious about calling it a successful season. But there's only been 5 United captains who have lifted a European trophy, and that beyond everything, it feels like there is a chance for this team, for one of your players to make history tomorrow night.
No, obviously, we talk about the Europa League, and the Europa League is everything that is in our minds because we play the final tomorrow, and we can be successful in the Europa League, in this competition. Obviously, we know in the Premier League we haven't been as good as we want, and all the other cups the same, because our aim is always to get into the end of the competitions and win the trophies. Obviously, as you said, I'm not here thinking that I'm going to be one of the captains lifting the European trophy. Obviously, it's a very good feeling. I'm very proud of it. But at the same time, for me, the main thing is that our team gets to bring the trophy back to Manchester, because everyone will have the time to lift the trophy one at a time or whatever. The main thing is that the red shirts lifting that trophy.
We'll take one over there.
Viaplay Norway. Question for the player and the manager. Tottenham, they have rested players into this game. Your build-up has been to play the best players to the best team. What kind of advantage do you feel you will get into this game by that build-up, that preparation for the game?
The advantage I don't know is you have to see the context. I don't know the context of Tottenham. What I know is that we had the last game against Bilbao, we had that game, and then we rest some players because of we were afraid of some injuries, and then we had a full week to prepare the game. And I felt with 5 days to the final, the best thing to prepare the final is to give time to the players to play. So I cannot respond from the side of Tottenham, but for me it was really clear. We need to compete. The best way to prepare something is to compete, and I had that feeling, and I pushed the players against West Ham in the end of the game, and I felt that against Chelsea we should show something, and to prove that when we are focused, when we play our game, we can control any game in any place. So it was a good day to compete, to prepare the final. That was the idea.
Manchester United and Tottenham.
I can't call this, you know. I feel like you could just toss a coin.
I think United.
Well, they will at the Saturday game, won't they? Just.
I think United did just. The
only thing is, if you look at the league table, sorry, right?
Go on.
Spurs have scored over 20 more league goals. That's something I look. Oh, they do have a goal in them, Spurs.
That's a good point, though.
Kulusevski not playing.
He's done his homework.
Kulusevski not.
I think if the Tottenham players weren't injured, I do think that probably could be like a
could have been this.
50. I mean, I still think United will win.
Yeah, I do.
I just think not being able to bring someone off the bench or something, you know, if you're Tottenham
it's
now.
It's going to be a lot for Spurs.
United's experience of big games.
I think so. I think United will probably sneak it.
Yeah, that's what I think, yeah. You mean, you mentioned the big players for United who've played in those games before, haven't you, as well, you know? Casemiro being one, I suppose, but...
Yeah, Maguire, Casemiro, Fernandes, I think they'll...
But could Ange do something?
It would be nice for him.
Something?
You just don't know.
What about Palace winning, Newcastle winning, after the season, you would talk, could Spurs win a trophy?
Yeah.
You know what?
Wow.
With it, all the finals have gone, maybe, or not.
It is written in the season like that, though. It is.
No, United win. I don't think it's. I mean, look, you celebrate a trophy, but I think there'll be a cautious celebration tomorrow night. I mean, not by the fans. The fans will go crazy.
No,
will you be going to?
The players.
No, I think they'll go berserk.
Do you think so?
Do you think?
I do. I think they'll think. That's the beauty of sport. You have an opportunity to almost forget what's just happened. You get the incentives, all their contracts, Champions League come the summer.
I think their interviews will be. We're so happy, we're delighted for the fans, but it's been a difficult season. I think that's the tone of it.
That should be the tone. But at the same time,
I don't think so. No, I think they'll.
You think they'll go hard?
Yeah.
It's a special moment, though, for them, isn't it? Whoever wins. It doesn't make it a special season, but it's a special moment.
And they played in Bilbao a few weeks ago and they won there, so they have a little bit of a good feeling towards that stadium. They won there comfortably.
Yeah.
So that gives you
brilliant
vibes.
stadium.
Yeah.
Are you going to the barbecue? They're having a barbecue, aren't they?
Is it? I don't know. What's that?
What's that even mean?
I'm having a barbecue.
But I didn't disagree. I don't think there should be a parade through the city for winning the Europa League.
Absolutely
United.
not.
If
we were sitting here not talking about Real, we keep saying Man United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. If Barcelona or Real Madrid were playing this fine, we'd be like, what's ever happened to them?
Yeah.
But we're saying Man United to what? A parade through Manchester. Good luck with that.
What's the barbecue?
Apparently they're
going to have a barbecue instead.
Where, at the training ground or something?
I don't know, maybe.
You just can't imagine them all standing there with
Room 101. Barbecues are overrated, aren't they? Fucking barbecue.
Oh, I love a barbecue.
No, they're the worst ever, honestly.
Why?
I'm not a fan of barbecues.
Do you not like a sausage sandwich?
Honestly, barbecues.
We go to room 101 again.
Smoke everywhere.
Smoke
Honestly,
everywhere.
queuing up for food, that's been there 20 buns.
And it's all burnt. And...
Oh, I love a barbecue.
Oh, worst ever.
Do you not like a burger or a sausage sandwich?
A burger, but not a barbecue.
So, Gal, do you think they will have they won't have a parade?
They're not having a parade.
They're not having a parade.
Good.
Yeah, they're just having a little get together, fine.
Yeah. Are Arsenal having a parade for finish the second?
Why would they? Why would they? Does anybody have a parade?
No, maybe Arsenal. Think outside the box.
No. You know, but we
imagine the Spurs win. Arsenal, that's a sick note, isn't it?
No, Spurs are finishing, what, 16th?
No, we're not talking about the league. We're talking about the league. We're talking about Europe.
Yeah, but when they started the season, they didn't start the season saying we're going to try and win the Europa League.
No, but if they win, how will you feel? Will you
high up in the league?
Will you be out your garden?
Yeah, but they're going to get in the Champions League, aren't they?
Who?
They're going to be Champions League and the trophy.
Will you be in your garden? Will you be in your garden?
With what?
Oh, they open the patio doors?
If what?
If Spurs
have a barbecue.
Crying.
Probably not.
No. Crying in the car.
Probably won't be crying.
Proper crying, like a proper ball.
I'm not fussed.
You are fussed.
I think that both of the teams, they both need
You're Arsenal till I die.
I was at Arsenal Sunday. The Arsenal fans
You want Tottenham?
United to win desperately. I mean, like...
Well, of course they do.
And guess who's going to the final?
The Europa League final?
Yeah.
For who?
I'm just going.
Gillette.
No, I'm not going for anyone. I'm going with Mr. Dean. Mr. Dean's invited me.
For who? You must be going for something.
What do you mean? For?
Because he loves the game.
I'm going with Mr. Dean.
He loves football.
Why
I like
he
that.
knows he's an Arsenal man, isn't he?
Yeah, because he's a football man. He's just I think it could be either a complete disaster of a game or it could be an unbelievable game.
That's not what we're asking.
And I've just been invited by... I've been invited by Mr. Dean and
you have a lot of invites, don't
Private jet?
Yeah. Huh?
Private jet?
That's the end of the season.
The man in the PB.
I said I didn't want to go on it. I said I'll meet you there.
Private jets.
I'm not in a private jet.
I did say I'll meet you there because I've got to do something.
Enjoy it, Wrighter.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward.
You deserve
Cheers,
it.
thanks.
Yeah,
Cheers.
you're so humble.
Enjoy it. You
Well done,
deserve
everybody.
more.
That's what the season.
Right.
All the way through that.